friends, and welcome back to the channel. So our baby has still not yet been born. She's still apparently cooking in there. So I thought I would film a video for you while I wait for her. I mentioned in last week's video that leading up to now, I've been taking a lot of my own self-portrait maternity photos. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen a few already. And I wanted to give you a full breakdown of how I took my own maternity photos for any of you that are researching this for yourself. So there are a number of reasons of why you might decide to take your own maternity photos. Perhaps money is tight, or you're just self-conscious, or you just have a creative itch to tackle the challenge and do it yourself. For us, we decided to take our own maternity photos for two reasons. One, I had that creative itch to just take my own maternity photos to kind of tackle the challenge myself, and so that was one of the reasons why I decided to take my own maternity photos. And the second reason was because I was being a little self-conscious. I've always been slightly self-conscious of my photo being taken, just because, you know, I'm human. There are parts of my body that I like and I don't like, and I'm sure there are other people out there that can relate. And so with pregnancy, you gain weight, and I've gained about 25 pounds throughout the course of my pregnancy, which is normal, it's average. But you know, towards the middle and end of my third trimester, I've started to see a lot more like stretch marks, and so I was kind of being really self-conscious about my photo being taken. But despite all of that, I really wanted to document this moment because it's an important time in our life. You know, this part of our journey, this chapter of our journey is coming to an end. So what I ended up doing is I took like a set of maternity photos just to say, you know, I had a couple maternity photos, but I ended up loving the process and the photos themselves, that I just kept on taking them. So for like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, I like busted out the camera and I would just take self-portrait maternity photos like every single day, experimenting with different parts of our house, experimenting with different outfits and what I was trying to go for and stuff like that. And so I ended up loving the process. So if you want to see a full gallery of the maternity photos that I took for ourselves, then I'll leave a link down in the description because they're all over on my website. And then there's also going to be the whole article on how I took my own maternity photos if you ever want to reference something that I mentioned. I'll also leave that down linked below. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the first step I took in creating my own maternity photos was determining the style and feel of the photos that I wanted. Determining this really helped inform other decisions down the road. It helped inform, you know, what outfits I was going to wear, what backgrounds or backdrops I was going to use. Was I going to take them indoor or outdoor? All of those things, you know, determining the style and feel of the photos just helped inform those other decisions. And so to do this, what I did is I just created a Pinterest board called Maternity Photos, and then on Pinterest, when I would look up maternity photo, you know, inspiration, if I found a maternity photo that I liked, I would pin it to my board. And after I gathered enough images, I could really see, you know, what poses I liked and what it is that I was trying to go for in the photos. You start to see kind of reoccurring patterns. And so what I found for my maternity photos is that I liked indoor maternity photos. I really loved the idea of taking these photos inside our own house, because this is the first house, you know, that we're not renting, that we actually own and live in, and this is going to be our baby's first home. So I really love the idea of like indoor maternity photos, especially ones, you know, taken in the bedroom or the living room, like the living spaces that you have. The other thing that I really found with my Pinterest board was I really liked a clean and consistent look. And so no fancy props, no fancy anything, just like clean backgrounds. And then lastly, I had the forethought in mind that I was going to recreate these photos after she was born. So I really kept that in mind with some of the photos, and that I created certain maternity photos for the exact purpose that we would recreate them after she was born. So that was the first step I took in creating our own maternity photos, was determining the style and feel. So after I had an understanding of the style and feel of the photos that I wanted, I was able to start setting the scene and planning for my photo shoot. So because I was going for this clean, consistent look, I was also taking these photos indoor. I had to find and track down basically locations in my house that had a nice blank wall that would contribute to the clean and consistent look that I was going for, you know, nothing too distracting or anything like that, but also worked well with natural light. So I took all of my self-portrait maternity photos using natural light just because I found it less frustrating. So I could have opted to use artificial lights to utilize like more parts of my home. However, the problem with it is that the artificial lights that I have, the two newer soft boxes that I sometimes use for my YouTube videos, they're very cumbersome to set up, and then there's never a convenient wall socket to use. So I oftentimes found when I did try to use artificial lights, I just got more frustrated with the process than if I used natural light. So I just opted to take the photos at a certain time of the day in order to optimize the natural light coming in. And then I just chose certain walls in my house, certain living spaces that we have here that also kind of played well with the natural light, just because natural light is very tricky in our house. So yeah, background, backdrop, as well as what kind of lighting you're going to use. And then the third element here when you're kind of setting the scene and planning your photo shoot is your outfit. So depending on exactly what you're trying to honestly portray and say in the photos, kind of determine your outfit choices. So for some of my maternity photos, I wanted like a more intimate feel, and so I chose outfits that had a more intimate feel to them. And then some of them I wanted a more casual look. So for the maternity photos where I was trying to portray, you know, like confidence, but also vulnerability and intimacy, I chose to wear, you know, similar color undergarments with robes with delicate detail. And then for the photos where I wanted just something a little bit more casual, something you would find myself lounging in day to day, I ended up choosing like different outfit pieces to go with that kind of a photo shoot. So depending on the photo shoot, my outfits changed. I didn't take all of these photos all in the same day. They're almost like mini maternity photo shoots all in one, so they all portray something a little bit different. And this might take some like testing to begin with. So there was one set of maternity photos that I took on the couch where I was just wearing like gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt, and I was just trying to go for like a more casual look in the living room. However, I found that the look was a little bit too casual, that I didn't really care for it. And so the next time I took a more casual photo shoot, I kind of kept that in mind of changing my outfit choices. So it was still casual, but it also wasn't too casual. I also had to think about my edits. So for all of my edits, I love the black and white. So I also had to keep in mind that whatever outfit I was wearing, I was going to be editing it in black and white. So if I was going to be using, you know, a white background, maybe not have all of my outfit being really light colors, maybe add some dark contrast to it. So I had to keep that in mind choosing my outfits. But I just believe the biggest thing with this is just choosing something that you feel comfortable and confident in, because if you're not comfortable and confident in it, it's gonna show in the photos. So after I, determined the style and feel of the photos that I want, I basically planned and I set the scene for my maternity photos. I was able to start taking the maternity photos, and my process for taking the photos indoor and outdoor varied slightly. So for camera equipment, I was using my Olympus E1 Mark II with the 12 to 40 millimeter lens. You all know that's my go-to setup. Now you can use any camera that you have at your disposal. If you have, a Canon, Sony, Nikon, even if you only have your phone to take your own maternity photos, there are different options for you out there. Because I was using my Olympus camera, my process for indoor and outdoor was slightly different. So for my indoor maternity photos, what I did is I would set up my camera in the position that I roughly felt that I wanted it in, and I would basically, once it was in its base position, I would connect my camera to my phone. So Olympus has like a share app where you can basically control your camera through your phone, and this is a really handy feature because with this feature you can basically change how you want your photos taken. You can change your camera settings, you can change your focal point, so you can do a lot with the Connect app. You can review your photos afterwards. And so I would connect the camera to my phone and then get into position to see if I needed to make any adjustments to my camera, and then once it was in its final position, I was able to get into my own base position of how I wanted the first pose to look, essentially. And then from there, I would either take a self timer shot or a continuous shot if I was going to be changing like my hand placement or my eye placement. And that was the kind of the process that worked the best for me when I was taking my indoor maternity photos. When it comes to taking my outdoor maternity photos, it did vary slightly because with my outdoor, there was nowhere for me to put my phone. So with the indoor, you can kind of put your phone off to the side. You can't see your phone. But with my outdoor, there was nowhere for me to put my phone. And so what I ended up having to do is same thing. I would set up my camera, but because Max was in my outdoor ones, I was able to, get him into position and like adjust the camera and everything. So there wasn't so much adjusting to do requiring the phone. And then I would set the camera to continuous. So it basically took so many photos every so many seconds. And I think we had ours set to like 8 photos every 5 seconds. And so once, Max was in his position, I would start the continuous shot. It would wait 12 seconds before it took the first photo. And then it would take 8 photos every 5 seconds. And that way we can kind of also play around with where we were looking and stuff like that without having to take the self timer shot and go back and forth. So we found this method was the best for the outdoor maternity photos. Now, if you are using your phone or a camera that doesn't have maybe the Connect app or the continuous shooting mode, you can also just use a self timer shot. Phones and other cameras can do that. It's just a little bit more walking. You basically have to set the camera up, queue up the shot and everything, start the self timer, get into the frame, it'll take the photo, then you have to walk back, review it, see if you want to make any changes, and then do it all over again. So it is just a little bit more of a process to do just a self timer shot, but there are always options out there for you depending on what camera ability you basically have. And then when it comes to posing for all of the photos, I'm not an expert when it comes to posing. What I found helpful was just going with simple poses, so nothing too crazy, nothing too difficult, as well experimenting. So when I was taking my indoor and the outdoor, I would just experiment with, how my body was positioned, was straight on better, was slightly angled better, where should I look, where should my hands be, just experimenting with everything, every single body placement just kind of helped with taking the maternity photos to find out what you liked, what you didn't like. So when you kept kind of taking them, you kind of knew what you liked and didn't like. And then lastly, micro adjustments. So with all of my posing, it was really simple to just make micro adjustments, where you're looking, where your hands are placed, what angle you're at, just like once you kind of find that base position that you like, just make micro adjustments until you get the exact photo that you were looking for. And then lastly, while you're taking the photos, play with creativity. So one of my favorite things about taking my own like self-portrait maternity photos is that I got to play with so much of my own creative compositions and ideas when it came to the maternity photos. So for one of the photos, I thought it would be really cool if we took it from the outside of the bedroom, peeking inside the bedroom. And so you kind of see, you've got this foreground interest, I'm on the bed. And then for another one, I kind of thought it would be unique if I took it from inside the bathroom. So inside our master bathroom, I basically set up my tripod and my camera over top of my toilet and I shot from the mirror. So like my camera basically took a photo of the mirror reflecting us in the bedroom. And so just play around with different creative compositions that you kind of maybe see on Pinterest or Instagram, or you kind of come up with yourself. It's just a lot of fun. So when you're taking the photos, get, the simple ones, the simple poses, the basic ones that you really want to get, but then, play with some of that creativity and try to capture something different. The finishing touch with these self-portrait maturity photos for myself was the editing. And this is where you can really experiment with, the editing style that you're going for, or if you wanted to go for black and white. So like I said, when I was determining the style and feel of the photos, I always tend to prefer like more of a natural edit. And then I also love black and white. So I always had in mind that for every maternity photo that I was taking, I was also going to be editing it in black and white. And so I was just using Lightroom Classic. So for every photo shoot that I did, I edited them all in color first and just using like a natural kind of style. So just making basic adjustments to like exposures, the shadows, highlights, contrast, stuff like that. And then I would create a virtual copy in Lightroom and also do a black and white edit. And I love the black and white look right now. I don't know what it is, if it's just looking very like timeless and classic, but I just love the black and white look. And so a lot of the photos that I've been posting to my Instagram have been the black and white edits. But yeah, for every single maternity photo that I basically took, I also edited them in black and white, just again using Lightroom, kind of changing up some of the shadows and the highlights and the blacks and whites a little bit more to make it punchier. And then when you are taking your own self-portraits, a lot of times the camera is in a stationary position. So it's not like you have someone that's moving the camera up and down, playing with different angles and stuff like that. A lot of times the camera is in one position because it's on a tripod and it's just taking the one composition, the one angle of you. So in order to create a little bit of variety in the photos without necessarily changing the height or the angle or anything of the camera constantly in between photos, as I did it in Lightroom. So I just played around with cropping in Lightroom to kind of create some variation in some of the maternity photos so they weren't all, you know, exactly the same. So that is the complete breakdown of how I took all of my own like self-portrait maternity photos, all the way from determining the style and feel of the photos to editing. It is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed taking our own maternity photos. It honestly sparked like the creativity and the bug for photography in me all over again. So I really enjoyed the process of taking my own maternity photos, and now I have these photos that I can enjoy for a lifetime, and I'm so excited, you know, when we get older and when our kids get older, having photos like this to show them, because this is just an important and unique time in our life. I really hope you found this video helpful or interesting. Like I said earlier, a full gallery of the maternity photos that I took for ourselves is going to be over on my website, as well a full article on how to take your own maternity photos is also going to be over on the website, so I'll link those both down in the description. If you did find this video helpful and interesting, please give it a like and subscribe, maybe buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll see you in the next video.